What's going on, guys? Quinn69 here. How you guys doing today? So as you can see here, I'm bringing you guys a new guide. This one here is a support monk, more specifically the globe monk. Let me just put this out there straight away. This is not really a build for super casual players who are just doing Torment X or, you know, doing low GRs with miscellaneous groups. This is a more specialized guide. Your primary focus is basically spawning health globes, right? And you need DPS that gain damage buff from picking up health globes. That's basically anyone who's using Reaper's Wraps braces. They get 30% max resource back from picking up a health globe, or have talents that scale with health globes. So we're using a Twister Wizard, and they have a talent that whenever they pick up a health globe, they get 1 free spender cast, and they also get 30% max resource back. So it's pretty overpowered when you put it in the right setup. So you have to know that your DPS are scaling from this, and if they're not, then don't waste your time playing with this build. Obviously, you do bring a lot of other things to the party. You bring a ton of damage reduction, a bit of damage amp, and then you're also manipulating the monsters so you can clear, you know, really, really fast. So you are bringing a lot of utility to the group, but your primary function is health globes. So if you're not playing with DPS that does not scale with health globes, then just don't waste your time with this build. It's designed for like GR75 plus. People have been clearing out to 100 with this bad boy. So yeah, just putting it out there, boys. Just putting it out there. Okay, so now we're playing with Twister Wizards. This is the meta right now. So you're probably going to be playing with a Twister Wizard if you're playing this build properly. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of, you know, what you're supposed to be doing when you're playing with these particular wizard setups. And you'll notice whenever I'm fighting, I'll be pulling monsters to walls. You might be like, why on earth is he pulling it to walls? If you pull it to walls, then it makes the density worse because, you know, they're not just a big clump with maximum, you know, you can't just get this huge clump in the center of a map, right? Okay, the reason why you're pulling it to walls is because when a when a wizard shoots out a twister, okay, it'll just go in a straight line and fly off to Africa, right? If it doesn't hit anything. But if the wizard shoots the twister to a wall, it hits a wall and either stops or slows down, and then it just keeps ticking and ticking and ticking and wrecking the monsters. And not only that, the wizard's twisters can also combine and do even more retarded damage. So the whole time you're going, you're trying to manipulate the monsters to the walls. And as a monk, you're basically you're not the scout. The witch doctor is technically the scout, but you're the person who initiates the pack generally. So when you're going in, you're actually going to be running in, and it's your job to quickly position the mobs before everyone gets there. Because the second everyone else gets there, what happens is they'll do all their crowd control abilities, then the monsters are immune to pullback because there's diminishing returns on crowd control now. So you won't be able to position them, and then you're going to just kill things really slowly. Like the difference between you know, a proper position set of monsters and some bad positioning is everything, you know, because the wizard can only work with what you've got, you know. He can't move the monsters. It's up to the support to set it up properly, but the wizard obviously does have to position himself properly, so he wants to be always shooting towards walls. He's doing some weird stuff right now, but there you go. See, now he's shooting it towards the wall, and the monster just goes down and gets wrecked. And that's, you see here, I'm going to hopefully, am I going to get there first? I'm slacking right now. I'm slacking. Should be getting to the, I'm trying to get to the yellow before everyone else. You obviously got no dashing strike. You have to use Epiphany teleport to do this. Okay, so you can see I'm running in. Hopefully, I'm going to see some elite or something and pull it towards a wall. The dream, boys, the dream. I haven't watched this footage. I'm just dreaming. Okay, so there's no elites. You can also use flags to tell the wizard where you should be shooting. So this is like a narrow tunnel, so he can shoot and bounce it back off these walls. And that's why I just dropped a flag there, because that's enough density to justify killing. Generally, with a new meta, you just want to be skipping towards elites at all times. And your barbarian, you can see my barbarian's out there. He's scouting, looking for an elite to pull into this trash density. So you want your barb to be doing that. But let's talk about the monk gameplay. Okay, so you've got that point down. Okay, you're supposed to be scouting, positioning the monsters straight away. Once you've got them positioned, okay, then you've got to do some things. You need to be using blinding flash and cooldown. Every time you blind, it reduces the damage of the monsters' abilities and all their attacks by 40%. So you need to have that blind up all the time. So you're going to be blinding just on cooldown. As long as this monster's in range, just hit those idiots and just wreck them. On top of that, you want to be using Desert Shroud on cooldown. Obviously, that's Epiphany, you know, 50% damage reduction. If you do not have that up, you're going to probably die, especially, I mean, this is GR85. Monsters hit really hard. If any of our damage reductions drop, we just get wrecked, you know, just destroyed. It's not fun. It's not fun, especially when you're doing high 90s. It gets even worse. Okay, on top of that, we're using Inner Sanctuary Forbidden Palace. You need to be dropping that all the time, pretty much on cooldown, because your wizard, he's trying to stand inside that inner sanctuary, so he's constantly standing on top of you the whole time, trying to get his damage reduction, and on top of that, it also gives 30% additive damage, so it's pretty nice. And then you're just cycloning, and you don't need to activate Mantra, unless you're using Mantra of Healing, which is a viable setup. We will talk about that when we go over the gear. Cyclone monsters, blind on cooldown, use Desert Shroud on cooldown, and obviously you're going to be, I'm using Fists of Fury here. There's a Crippling Wave setup. You need to pretty much be attacking the monsters at all times as well. If you're not attacking the monsters, you're not spawning health globes, okay? So you can't mess around spawning health globes too much. But otherwise, that is the gameplay. Let's go over the gear and the skills and tell you guys how it all works. So straight away, I've got some good news for you guys. The gear requirements for this build are actually really easy. You don't need any ancient gear. You don't need to get any fancy augments on your gear. You don't have to have a high paragon for this build. So you can be like a complete pleb. As long as you've got the correct gear and you know how to play it, you can just slot into a group. So it means, you know, if you've got a really powerful wizard friend who plays all the time and you're kind of like a bit of a pleb, you can just go join him on a support monk, providing you can actually play the game properly, and you can be like a powerful member in the group, if not better than the other guy he was using. And so gear, paragon, augments, they mean nothing with this build, because you're generally going to have enough survivability to survive, and all you need is some correctly itemized gear, which is not very hard to find. So straight away, we're using a Thunder Fury Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. This is not because it does crazy damage or anything. This is purely for the debuff. It's kind of like what you put it on a Templar for. Each enemy hit has their attack speed and movement speed reduced by 30% for 3 seconds. So it just means when you're attacking a Rift Guardian, it has that attack speed reduction, and it's very powerful for sure. You can obviously, if you don't have a Thunder Fury, because that is kind of rare, probably the rarest item, you can just use a Pig Sticker, or any other fast one-handed weapon. Generally, Pig Stickers are good though, because it has an extra affix, and on top of that, it's a dagger, so it has 1.5 APS. The dream rolls on both your weapons are basically attack speed and cooldown reduction. Okay, now this here is the thing that makes the whole build work. This is the Selenium. This is what all of your itemization is based around. Okay, so if you read the secondary here, critical hits have a 4% chance to spawn a health globe. So you can see now why, you know, this is where monks are getting the health globe spawn from. We're just stacking the crap out of attack speed, and then we are just stacking the crap out of crit. So your character just attacks really fast, and he crits all the time. So health globes pop out. This has non-eternal cooldown, and if you're hitting 10 enemies, you can imagine that goes from like a 4% chance to a 40% chance. So it's quite overpowered once you have, like, you know, 70% crit with, you know, 5 attacks per second, and you're attacking 20 monsters. There's just like health globes just everywhere. Wizards don't really even need health globes when there's that much density though, because they have arcane power and crit. That's besides the point. You just want loads of attack speed and crit. Boom. Okay, we are then using Raiment 2-piece. This is not for the damage buff. This is for the 25% multiplicative attack speed. So this goes beyond the 5 APS sheet cap. So I always stress this point. So see here, it says attacks per second. When you're flying dragons procced and you've got all your, you know, abilities procced, this will just cap out at 5, right? Okay, these multiply that by 1.25. And you can use Raiment anywhere. So as long as you have Raiment 2-piece and Inners, so we're also using Inners 3-piece. We're using 3 pieces plus the Ring of Rogue Grandeur, so we have Inners 4 set, obviously. So you could have Raiment chest and Inners pants. You could have Raiment gloves and Inners pants. Vice versa, you could have, you know, whatever, Inners boots and then Raiment chest. Okay, it doesn't matter. As long as you have 2-piece Raiment and 3 pieces of Inner on your gear with the Ring of Rogue Grandeur and the cube, so you get the attack speed and then you also get all the 4 mantras, then you're good to go. That's it. So, and as far as rolls go on these things, it's standard monk rolls. You just want, you know, Vit, armor, dex. You want secondary res on all your gear. Obviously, things like the Inner's belt can't roll with secondary res, which is unfortunate. But really, the rolls on these aren't too meaningful. As far as your gloves go, though, you do want cooldown reduction and you do want attack speed there. Those are the 2 things you want, and obviously crit. So crit, cooldown reduction, attack speed. The dream. You can technically drop attack speed off for a more defensive stat, but you can see here I've got a pretty unique pair of gloves. I've got vitality, so I actually rolled the dexterity off. Just like shoulders, here we're using whatever the hell that's called. I don't know, I'm going to try pronounce that taint. Okay, whenever you Cyclone Strike, you get 50% damage reduction for 5 seconds. OP, boys. Cyclone Strike, and we get that crazy toughness juice. and that's a multiplier. It scales with all those other, you know, damage reductions. OP. Main thing you need, 8 CDR. Okay, helmet, doesn't really matter, as long as it's a Lyric's crown. You're looking for the max CDR roll, and obviously you want to have crit there. So mine's not perfect, I want 6 crit, because remember, the more crit we have, the more health glows we spawn. The more health glows we spawn, the more damage the wizard deals. And it's GGWP. As far as your necklace goes, what you're looking for is cooldown reduction, crit, and then attack speed. Cooldown reduction being the primary, you know, what you want the most. Crit being the, you know, after, and then attack speed. If you can get the dream necklace, cooldown, crit, and attack speed, that would be insane. We're then using spirit guards. Whenever you attack with your generator, you get damage reduction. Main thing it needs to have is 6 crit, and obviously you attack with your spirit generator. You can see I get my reduction, also cyclone, and look at my toughness. It's just going like crazy because we're getting all these damage reductions. We're then using Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. So you want attack speed, crit, and cooldown. This is like the dream ring. It's like rolls really unique in the fact that you get all the stats that you want. So it's absolutely amazing. And obviously the way that works is whenever you press Cyclone Strike, it reduces the cooldown of your Inner Sanctuary and your Epiphany. And it means you have, you know, just crazy uptime on both these abilities. There will always be overlap if you have enough cooldown reduction. We're then using an Oculus Ring. And you might be like, what's the point of using an Oculus Ring? I don't get it. You know, the support's not going to be killing anything, so surely there's going to be no Oculus Ring procs. Okay, as long as you're in the same zone, you don't even have to hit the monster, okay? You can be literally in Africa, okay? But as long as the other guy's in Africa somewhere, you know, just somewhere in that zone, okay, then you will proc your ring on every monster in that zone. So your wizard kills some guy, and he's hundreds of yards away from you, but you're in the same zone, okay? The wizard kills something, he procs the ring. So as long as you've got that equipped on your character, you're going to be spawning these little zones on the ground. That goes up to 85%, and that is a pure, you know, it's a multiplier. So the wizard stands in that, you know, that multiplies by 1.85. Oh my god, ridiculously overpowered, especially if you've, you know, that scales with your multiplier power pile. It's crazy OP. But your wizard has to be quite aware of those, and he's to stand in those at all times. Then we're obviously using a Hellfire Amulet. I didn't actually go over that. So Hellfire Amulet, so you get an extra passive. You don't need a Hellfire Amulet. You can use pretty much anything. The next best thing to a Hellfire Amulet, please tell me I have one somewhere. Please. Yes! There it is. Overwhelming Desire. Because you're obviously attacking really fast, while charmed, the enemy takes 35% more damage. That is the next best thing to a Hellfire Amulet, or maybe even greater than a Hellfire Amulet. So if you get one of these, this is a pretty good roll one, and I could use that if I wanted to, but I prefer having the extra passive. But yeah, that's the gear. Let's go over the gems now. We're using Esoteric Alteration, that's for damage reduction. We're using the Gogoku Swiftness, okay, that gives us 15% attack speed, 15% cooldown reduction, OPOP. Now the third gem is up to you. I've got a Toxin right now, so whenever you attack your poison enemies, it means they take 10% more additive damage. So it's not a multiplier or anything, it's not crazy OP, but it is 10%, you know, more additive damage, which is nothing, you know, not nothing. You can obviously, if you're confident that you're not going to lag out, so just as generally goes to people playing on the Australian servers and things, you can actually get away with using a pain enhancer, or if you're playing during not peak times. So if you're playing, you know, in the dead of night and there's hardly anyone on the servers and there's not much lag, okay, you can actually use pain enhancer. But just be warned, this can crash the game. If you're attacking at 5 APS with Fist of Fury, and you're attacking, it'll just destroy the servers. On top of that, it adds an extra dot. But yeah, I kind of messed around with those. And if you're like hardcore or you want to go super defensive, you can also use a Moratorium instead of that. That's like the full defensive option. But that is the gear and the gems. Let's go over our cube as far as what's in our cube. Okay, we've got a Flying Dragon in. So this obviously is what makes our attack speed go crazy. So when you're attacking, it has a chance to double your attack speed. This procs from anything. You can be, as long as you're attacking, you know, it'll just proc. On top of that, so you can see there's my Flying Dragon. It just procs right now. Brrr. Crazy OP. More attack speed, more Selenium procs. This is what makes monks so good at spawning health globes. Okay, we're then using Illusionary Boots. You guys are all going to say, it's not Illusionary Boots, Quinn, but whatever, that's what I like to call them, so they're called Illusionary Boots. Okay, this allows you to pass through enemies. This is pretty mandatory, because you're not running with Dashing Strike. This allows you to just move through monsters with ease, and it gives you good, you know, ton of mobility. We're then using Ring of Grandeur. This is pretty OP, so this allows us to actually get the extra piece of inners gear here, and that's what allows us to complete the set. So that means you can get raiment and inners at the same time while having all these defensive items. GG, boys. But that's that. As far as skills go, we're using Way of the 105th Fist of Fury. Okay, you might be like, what's the point of using this rune? Okay, if you guys don't know, this rune has the best proc coefficients in the game. This buff stacks, stacks like 50 times or something stupid like that. It can stack more based on your attack speed, and it's snapshots. It's really it's kind of broken, but whatever. It procs a ton of health globes. Okay, when you're going super high GRs, if you guys are having trouble surviving, definitely switch it to Crippling Wave, Concussion. Enemies hit by Crippling Wave deal 20% less damage for 3 seconds. And that actually works properly, so that will scale on the majority of affixes, not just auto attacks. So it's quite powerful. I'm then using a Sanctuary Forbidden Palace. That gives you, 55% damage reduction for anyone who's standing inside, and they take 30% more damage. It's a staple ability for monks, really overpowered. Cyclone Strike Implosion, just the biggest pull you can get as a monk, and it allows you to manipulate the monsters, so you just Cyclone Strike things, easy boys. Blinding Flash, Crippling Light, so this was changed in 2.4 from the Healing Rune, because Healing Rune was overpowered, and allows you to just reduce the monster's damage by, so enemies that are blinded deal 40% reduced damage for 5 seconds after the blind wears off. Then we're using Mantra of Retribution, Transgression, and this is just there for the attack speed, so it gives your wizard or whatever else is in the group attack speed. Okay, if you're playing hardcore mode, or if you're, having trouble surviving, okay, you can change this out. Mantra of Healing, because this is the new healing mantra that people are using, and you're going to Boon of Inspiration. So, Mantra of Healing also heals enemies for 3,500 life when hitting an enemy. Heal the amount of is increased by 20% of your life per hit. So, if you stack life per hit, you can actually get this up with full life on hit gear. So if you change your priorities and get life on hit on all your rings and stuff, both your weapons, and put double life on hit gems on, you can get it to like 500k life per second for your group. Okay, that's while you're attacking. So it's pretty good, but it's not exactly mandatory. There was groups clearing, in the 100s with this talent. So it's pretty powerful, but in saying that, there was other groups who were doing the same thing without that and using Transgression. So it's up to you what you want to use. There's the aggressive option, and then there's the pussy option. And this one also requires more specialized gear, and the mechanics are a little bit funky of this ability. We're then using Epiphany, Desert Shroud, obviously for the 50% damage reduction. That's up the whole time. 50% damage reduction, OP. Harmony, you get 40% of your single elemental resistances, so it gives you a ton of toughness, as long as your gear has secondary res. So whenever you're looking at your gear, you just want to stack, see where it says there, secondary, 180, cold resistance, OP boys. Resolve, damage you deal reduces the enemy damage by 20% for 4 seconds. That stacks with all those other damage reductions, and your enemy eventually does no damage because you've got so many of these in the group, and it's just GG. So that's just one more to add to the, to the kit. We're then using Beacon of Yita, reduces all cooldowns by 20%, 20% CDR, which is from a talent, OP boys. Okay, so this talent here is what I've got because I'm using a Hellfire. If I did not have a Hellfire amulet, this would be Alacrity. So you'll be using this one right here, because this is a 15% attack speed multiplier. And because we're capped at 5 APS, you don't actually need CC Initiative. CC Initiative is just there, because that's 30% item attack speed. That is not a multiplier. So that just adds onto your sheet. If you can imagine, where it says attack speed increase, when I attack a monster, that's going to go up by 30. So whereas Alacrity just straight up multiplies, and that multiplies with Raiment set, so they're both really strong. So just be warned, if you have a Hellfire amulet, then you can also get Seize the Initiative, and that just gives you more uptime. And you could also switch this out to Near Death Experience if you're playing hardcore, or if you're dying a lot. That's also a viability. As far as Paragons go, it doesn't really matter. You just cap out your movement speed, so if you've got 12 movement speed in boots, you go 13 on Paragons because you've got a maximum of 25. I have no movement speed on my boots, so I just go 25, full vitality, and then you just want to go cooldown reduction, then actually probably you want to go crit chance first, then cooldown reduction, then attack speed, then crit damage. Then it's resist, armor, life regen. And then this is something worth noting. Area damage does cause density lag, so when you're attacking a ton of density, area damage can do that. Because you're doing no damage and you're a support, just remove all area damage from your gear, and then you will cause less lag. And then you want resource cost reduction, life on hit, and then gold finds just doesn't really matter. But otherwise, guys, that is it. That is the support globe monk. There's going to be a pretty specialized written guide down below, so you guys can check for that, or just, you can just click a link. I should hopefully put a link here eventually. It's not going to be here straight away, but once the guide's done, you guys can click that. Otherwise, that is it from me, guys. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, you guys will be able to make some pretty sick support monks. Until next time, guys, peace the hell out, and have a good day.